Well, I wasn't gonna go out today, but at the last minute, I decided maybe it makes sense. So here we are. Weather's a little bit warmer. It's up in the 30s now. It was like in the teens a couple days ago. Anyway, today let's keep on with the subway adventure and let's go look at the historic BMT Broadway line, which was the first line that the BMT brought into Manhattan. Should be fun. Parts of it I use all the time, but I haven't really stopped to look around yet. So let's do that. If you're just finding this channel, I pick out places in New York City to go explore, and I take you with me. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. For now, let's hit the subway again. Let's go. All right, we're down here at South Ferry. Staten Island Ferry is right there. We've ridden that one. Check out that episode if you haven't seen it. So this time I came all the way down to the bottom and we're gonna work our way back up. And I just came out for, I guess, no reason. So we'll go back into the station and have a look at the station. This first stop, or I guess the last stop, is the terminus of the line. The one also comes down here, and that's part of the IRT. That was part of that expansion of the first line. But we're on the R and W, which are part of the BMT line. Already we got some of the original tile work there. So this whole line opened between 1916 and 1918 under the dual contracts that were signed with the city and the IRT and the BMT. This station at Whitehall was opened in 1918, and it's the final stop. It's the terminal on this Broadway line. And again, this is the first line that the BMT tried to get into Manhattan with to compete with the IRT. As you can see, if you look down the platform, there's a visible curve to the platform. This was an interesting place down by the shore to try to build a subway station, so there were the challenges with that. So this is one of the best surviving examples of a BMT terminal station, and it's kind of like a living artifact of the pre-unification subway system. This place was chosen because it's at the southern tip of Manhattan. It's near the ferry that we just saw outside. So this is still the terminus of the W train, but the R train continues on through a tunnel to Brooklyn now. Construction on this station started in 1914. They used a deep cut and cover method along with bored tunnel technology. So down here they're constrained by the narrow streets above, all the existing building foundations, and the nearby harbor. When it's finished in 1918, it serves as a terminal for all Broadway line services, and it's designed to handle heavy traffic. So unlike the IRT, which had a loop at its South Ferry station and at the City Hall station, at this station the train terminates and then reverses direction. Like most of the stations we'll see today, the tiles are cream color. Got the Whitehall mosaics, narrow platform proportions. So historically this station represents the BMT's desire to compete with the IRT here in Manhattan. And this is a rare surviving BMT terminal layout. All right, now we're at the next stop. This is Rector St. What you see here is narrow platforms that are typical of early BMT design. So this is one of the original local stations under the BMT's Broadway line, and they're pushed into Manhattan under the dual contracts. With this, the BMT was trying to establish a direct Midtown to Lower Manhattan link and compete with the IRT's Broadway 7th Avenue line. And this also served the financial district's workforce. Because of the constraints and the construction of this station is built pretty shallow and pretty narrow. So this station is a textbook example of the BMT's local station layout. You got a 2-track layout, narrow platforms, low ceiling heights. This really highlights the simplified but refined BMT aesthetic as opposed to the very ornate IRT stations. So the station shows pure BMT local platform layout, and it remains largely unaltered in alignment and layout since 1918. With these vents you can see how shallow we are here. So this next station is Cortlandt Street, and it originally opened in 1918. But actually, this station was destroyed during 9/11 and was since rebuilt. And they retained the original BMT footprint that was here. So this was an original BMT Broadway Line station, and it originally opened September 20th, 1918. So you've got all the mosaic tiles here, and then the directional mosaic arrows that we saw back there. Once again, this is less ornate than the original IRT stations, but in some ways it's more refined than some of the other purely utilitarian stations on the BMT line. When they reopened this after rebuilding it post 9/11, the reopening was on September 20th, 2018, the 100th year anniversary of the original opening of the station. That's kind of cool. And this station is important because it shows how historic subway sites can be rebuilt without erasing the memory of the station. This is the BMT City Hall station, not to be confused with the IRT City Hall station, which we went and toured in another episode. Check that one out if you haven't seen it. This was actually built to compete with the IRT City Hall station. This station is on the other side of City Hall from where the IRT station is. So we've got some of the decorative tile features still here. Again, much more utilitarian design than the IRT stations. So less ornate than the IRT stations, more refined and consistent, built for speed, durability, and economy. You can see here there's an old entrance to other tracks that are down below. So this station represents the BMT's civic presence in the city here next to the City Hall and the other government buildings. It also shows the contrast between the IRT's design and the BMT's design. It's a good example of the private subway competition in the early 20th century and the evolution of practical subway architecture. So here's the BMT subway exit. You get City Hall right over there. And that original IRT City Hall station was right in front of City Hall. The new one, Brooklyn Bridge Station, is on the other side of City Hall. This next station is Canal Street. This also opened in 1918. This is a complex multi-level BMT layout. There are remnants of abandoned tracks all over the place. This was known as one of the most confusing and fascinating BMT stations ever built. This was actually a primary lower Manhattan junction. It wasn't just a local stop. It's also a major transfer and operational node. This is the point where BMT service in Manhattan could diverge and some of it could go off to Brooklyn. The station is important because it represents the peak of private subway ambition. It's a 4-track layout here. It looks like they're express tracks, but if you look over here, they just end. Those are part of some of the abandoned lines at this station. Now I see what they mean about how confusing the tunnels are. I just walked over where the N and the Q are. Didn't even make it to where the J and the Z are. It's a labyrinth. This is Prince Street, opened in 1917. Got the beautiful mosaic tiles here. This is a transitional station between Midtown and Lower Manhattan for the BMT. So we got a local-only station here with express tracks in the middle. This is the last station before the express trains head off toward Brooklyn. This was never meant to be anything more than a local station serving this community here. Just like the other stations we've seen on the BMT line, it's less ornate than the IRT stations. Kind of subtle beauty to it. Provides a good look into what BMT was doing in 1918. This is 14th Street. This is a major hub. It's actually one of the most important IRT BMT transfer points. It retains all the nice BMT mosaic tiles. But this point, since it's a transfer between the IRT and the BMT, it shows the competition between the private subway companies, but also shows how they interconnected. So the station is a huge multi-level complex that connects the IND trains, the BMT trains, and the IRT trains. But the BMT was here about 20 years before the IND ever came through. This represents a first generation of BMT stations designed as major hubs hubs, and it demonstrates the transfer from neighborhood stations to high-volume transfer stations. Now we're at 23rd Street, also opened in 1917. This is another local-only station. You got the express tracks in the middle. So it was meant to serve the residential and commercial neighborhoods nearby, and it's supposed to complement the IRT service that's running along 7th Avenue. So this is pretty typical BMT local stations of this time period, and all the local stations are going to kind of start to look the same here. But this station is important because it remains largely unaltered since it opened more than 100 years ago. This is a pretty typical neighborhood BMT station. Street, also opened in 1917, pretty much the same as all the other local stations. I'm gonna hop back on now. This is 34th Street, Herald Square. It also opened in 1917, and this ended up being one of the busiest dual contract stations. It serves both local and express trains. And this comes right to Herald Square, which is where Macy's is, so this is a central shopping hub. The Times Square 42nd Street station, incredibly busy station. And when this opened in 1917, it immediately became BMT's busiest station of all. Herald Square was close behind. This is one of the earliest multi-level exchange complexes. Tracks crisscrossing everywhere, above each other, below each other. BMT tracks here retain their early 20th century proportions. This is a former connection point for elevated trains also. So the BMT platforms here, while they're part of a multi-layered complex now, it started out as a standalone Broadway Line station. So this really represents a moment when the subways began to interconnect. It shows the evolution from competitive to cooperative subway building and demonstrates early large-scale interchange planning. This is 49th Street, also opened in 1918. It's pretty typical of the local BMT platforms, except this one's brick, not tile. This station's proximity to Times Square and Rockefeller Center made it pretty important. And now we're at 57th Street, which opened in 1919 as an extension of the Broadway line. You get the original BMT tile patterns. This is a deep bore station reflecting later Broadway extensions. So when the station opened in 1919, it became the northern terminus of the Broadway line. So this was the end of the line here. So again, here there's no loop. Trains would pull in and then they go back the other direction again. The terminal role made it important here. It was a main boarding point for Midtown commuters. This was like the uptown counterpart to the Whitehall station where we started. In the 1950s, it lost its terminal status because they extended the lines along 57th Street over to Lexington Avenue, and nowadays from there they carry on. This station is significant because it marks the final phase of the BMT Broadway Line project. It illustrates the transition from early dual contracts design to later standardization, and it functioned as a major terminal through the BMT's peak years. And Carnegie Hall's right upstairs. And that's it. Here's the queue. Let's head back uptown. I'm back up to the east side after a nice look at the BMT's first line into Manhattan, the Broadway line. Definitely not as ornate as the IRT stations that we saw on that first line, but beautiful in a more subtle way, I suppose. If you're just finding this channel, be sure to check out all the rest of the episodes already available on the channel Up to the East Side on YouTube. Like and subscribe, tell all your friends about it, and look for new episodes every Friday. Thanks for coming with me to explore New York City. I'll see you next time.